back. I want to get right to my guest tonight. He is the author of the new book, The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, American Evangelicals in an Age of Extremism. Tim Alberta up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. Tim, it's good to see you again.
Jim, it's good to see you, brother. You doing okay?
Yeah, we're hanging in there here in D.C. And the last time we talked to you was a time before COVID, and you were in studio. We were talking about American Carnage, which it's interesting to see the parallels because that book was about how the Republican Party sort of worked to conform itself around Donald Trump. Your new book is really about how the evangelical movement has worked to form itself around embracing Donald Trump, a man who was never really part of that to begin with.
Yeah, it wasn't by design, Jim, I assure you. In fact, it's a little bit eerie, some of the parallels between the two stories. I think the common thread is not just Trump, but also the degree to which a vocal and well-organized minority can hijack the institutions and the cultures of a quieter and complacent majority. And so what you see happening in the evangelical church in America today is, you know, a certain radicalism, a certain extremism bred by conspiracy theories and by far-right politics infiltrating churches, and not in any majority sense, and not even like a big minority, but a vocal minority and a really kind of militant minority that has pushed these churches in many cases, as I document in the book, to the brink of fracturing and pastors retiring and congregations split in half and a lot of relationships lost. And in the process, of course, a lot of damage done to the reputation of the church, which is why I'm trying to address it as a believer myself. I'm deeply invested in trying to help restore the reputation of the church.
I'm glad you mentioned that part because you're approaching this not just as a journalist and an author and somebody who studied politics, but again, as a Christian yourself. And there's a sense of something that during the last couple of years, during the Trump era, he really encapsulated upon was this idea of persecution where there were people out to disturb the mainstream, people out to disturb these values that they held near and dear. And when you look at where we were and how we've covered it as the media, that feeds into it a lot because I think there's a lot that the media has failed at in terms of understanding the idea of Christianity and evangelicals.
Yeah, look, there's no question. I mean, there's blame to go around here. I think it's certainly understandable why, for some traditionally conservative people of faith, they look around and they think that the country is abandoning the principles and the values that it was built on. They believe that the country no longer adheres to the morals that it once did. Of course, the irony in that is that many of these same people, in pursuit of restoring those morals, reclaiming the America they once knew, have turned to a man who is himself in many ways profoundly immoral, and with his behavior, with his rhetoric, calling humans who are made in the image of God vermin, and saying that immigrants poison the blood of our country. I mean, that is the irony baked into all of this, is that if you believe that the barbarians are at the gates, do you really need a barbarian to go and do the fighting for you? And that is this kind of under siege mindset that you see taking hold of significant portions of the evangelical church in America. And I think, again, the reputational damage done, the allegations of hypocrisy and opportunism that accompany that sort of political alliance made with someone like Donald Trump, it does profound damage to the church.
One of the things that is quite personal that you've talked about is involving the passing of your father, who was a reverend himself. And in fact, last time I had you on the show talking about American Carnage, he passed about a week later. And you've talked about just really how there was a bit of a reckoning and a bit of a self-reflection on your part when it came back to mourning his loss, because the way that your book was covered in the media and by the likes of Rush Limbaugh really fed into a certain sentiment against the way you approach this all.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it in many ways, this story starts with my dad and with my home church. And, Jim, if I'm being honest, I had for many years been worried about and alarmed by the the incursion of politics into the church, and I tried to keep quiet about it and just, it's my tribe. I don't want to. You don't want to air the dirty laundry of your family. You don't want to speak out against your own community, and it really took my dad's death and being confronted at his funeral. He's in a box, and I've got longtime church members who've known me since I was a little kid coming up to me and trafficking in, like far right conspiracy politics and wanting to challenge me if I'm even a Christian anymore. Because if I am, then how could I possibly be critical of Donald Trump? Don't I know that, God is using him to restore America, that sort of stuff. And it just forced me to confront this in a way that I hadn't been willing to confront it earlier, I think. And obviously that's a painful thing to do. It's not like I take any satisfaction, any joy in challenging my own faith tradition in this way, but I do feel that it's necessary, not even as a journalist, but as a Christian. I believe deeply in the teachings of Jesus and in the doctrines of the New Testament, and part of that is denying our earthly idols and aspiring to be a part of the kingdom of heaven, and turning our backs on the kingdoms of this world. And the American political tribe has become an idol to too many in the church today, and that's really what I'm trying to confront in the book.
The book is The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory. Tim Alberta, thank you. Great to see you again. Merry Christmas. Hope you enjoy it with your family, and good luck with everything else going on over the next couple of weeks and months, and clearly over the next year.
Thanks, Jim. Merry Christmas to you. I appreciate it, man. See you soon.
Take care. Final five back after this.
I wanna fly.